you see, to listen to you, to hear from you, and how to take the mission of the two countries. What is the mission? Strengthening the rule of law. We are the two largest democracies in the world, but that gives us more responsibility also to behave in a very responsible manner. We also have the two, being a lawyer I must say that, the two largest number of legal professionals, 1.1 million in India, 1.2 million in the United States, which is the largest force. And I'm pleased to share with you that for the first time, under the auspices of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, we are going to have an Indo-US legal summit on 4th of March, where the top leadership of the American Bar Association, with whom we have got excellent relationship. I was the founder chair of the India chapter of the American Bar Association. They will be coming and sharing their views, you see. It's a very high profile delegation. So besides, everyone has said, you see, about the important role that India and the United States play, and the responsibility of promoting better, still better, economic ties, commercial ties, cultural ties, educational ties, in all spheres, in the field of art, in the field of entertainment, Hollywood, Bollywood, everywhere you see there is a possibility and great potential for further cooperation. So those are all well-known facts. I would not like to take much time except to express my deep gratitude to Your Excellency and also to our very senior bureaucrats who have come all the way from Uttar Pradesh and the leadership of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce who have assembled here from all over the country, and all those invitees for having come to this grand event which is taking place today. So I thank all of you and good wishes to you, sir. Thank you.
From UP's government, members, officials from the US Embassy in India, champions from the industry, friends from media, ladies and gentlemen. May I take this opportunity first of all to also welcome His Excellency in this program from the side of government of UP as well. Indo-American Chamber of Commerce has today organized a conference which is very pertinent as India has already entered into its Amritkal, that is the fourth quarter of our centenary for the independence. As our Honorable Prime Minister has shared a vision to make this country fully developed in this period of Amritkal, and the economic target for India to become a $5 trillion economy by 2027, and the commitment of the state of UP under the wonderful leadership of 𝗭𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧, Honorable Chief Minister, to make UP a $1 trillion economy by 2027. As on date, I'd just like to share few important figures and bring to your kind notice, Your Excellency, that now UP is the second largest GDP state in the country, contributing to almost 10% of India's GDP. For the last few years, it has an economic growth of over 13% on an average, and now we are accelerating it at the same time where India and US are the two largest democracies of this world. UP is home to over 240 million people, citizens. Last year, in the month of February, that is February 2023, under the leadership of Honorable Chief Minister, UP State has organized a very successful global investor summit. I'd like to share few important takeouts from it. In fact, a team of senior officers led by senior ministers had also gone to 4 to 5 cities of US, including New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, so as to interact with the business people over there and to let them know about the opportunities which are now in UP. Sir, UP is a completely transformed state now in the last 7 years. It is the state with the best of law and order in the entire country. The rule of law is profound there, and that is the basis of governance. And now UP has the infrastructure which is second to none in the entire country. It's now also popularly known as the Express Pradesh. Why Express Pradesh? Reason being UP has now more than 42% of expressways in the country, with a running length of more than 1500 kilometers and another 1000 kilometers which are under construction. UP already has more than 10 functional airports, of which 4 are international airports. And one of the largest international airports of South Asia, which is the 𝗂𝗵𝗲 airport, very adjacent to Delhi, Noida, is going to be operational in a couple of months this year itself. The rail network, the kind of opportunities which UP has is second to none, and it is the period where Honorable Prime Minister in last year's conference has said that UP is truly now the growth engine of the country. Sir, I'll try to bring to your notice as well as to the dignitaries and the champions of industries and the members of Executive Council of IACC who have come from across all over the country, as Dr. Singh was mentioning, that now is the time to come and invest in UP, to become a part of UP's successful growth story. Few sectors I would like to mention over here in which very strong presence of US companies can also be in UP. They include information technology and information technology related manufacturing, electronic manufacturing. Electric vehicles and automobile sector is a very important sector. UP has the highest number of electric vehicles in the entire country. So UP, the consumer base which UP provides is the largest in the country. Other important sectors, they include agriculture. The second, one of the two defense corridors in the country, exports and companies of the country as well as outside, they are coming and establishing their base here. As has been rightly mentioned by Dr. 𝗂𝗽𝗋, a very important sector is development and vocational courses. So UP is now in the process of partnering with other universities of US. They can come and explore the state. Very important factor is that, sir, now we have.
She used to joke with me when I was a child that I was the best gift she ever got for her birthday. And as you know, we in America reversed the month and the date from India. So my mother just texted me on the way here. She said, this year it's 2424. So it's this second month, fourth day of 2024 that I'll be celebrating. So I'm going to be in Jaipur this weekend for the Literature Festival and certainly be thinking of you. Don't have too much cake, don't worry. It's not good for you, but it's certainly going to be a wonderful birthday week. And what a joy it is to be with all of you friends. It says, it's so funny here, I'm thanking Dr. Basim, Dr. Aurora, Mr. Karna, Mr. Bora, Dr. 𝗂𝗪, but it's really Anup and Arun and Upsana and Pankaj and Atul and Lalit and Manoj. You've become first name friends to me. And thank you for the warmth of your words. Thank you for the way you've received me, the entire membership, so warmly as well. It's really special to come to the IACC. And I know that thank you for the love you've expressed for Jonathan Heimer too, who leads an amazing team, including 𝗵𝗻𝗁, who's here as well, of folks who are dedicated to make your business work. And I loved hearing the pitch from you, Secretary 𝗵𝗻, because I know what it's like to hustle for geography when I was the mayor of Los Angeles. California is kind of the UP of America, the two biggest, most populous states, dynamic places with great leaders. So I was thinking, put me on the UP team, and I was thinking through some slogans, because UP spells up. So you could have things are looking UP, things are looking up, or it's only up from here, UP, or check out the upside. So count on me, and I didn't share this with you, but I'm looking, I hope, in the first week of March to come to UP to Lucknow. So we'll coordinate. We'd love to see the Chief Minister, yourself, and others, and see how we can deepen our ties in UP. I've been there as ambassador. I've been there many times before I was ambassador, but going to 𝗄𝗽𝗎 doesn't quite just count yet. So I will get further in. And I'm so proud that in the 9 months that I've served, 9.5 months as ambassador, I've now been to 18 of the states and territories of India, so halfway to the 36. But it has been a joyous and a joyful experience. From the far reaches of Nagaland during the Hornbill Festival, to Gujarat, where I first went on my first trip to breathe in cricket in Modi Stadium, to waking up and seeing the sunrise in 𝗂𝗽𝗃 with Indians in the water, as three great different bodies of water, the Bay of Bengal, the Indian Ocean, and the Arabian Sea all meet. All the way north to the foothills of the Himalayas in 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗶 Pradesh. I've really breathed in what makes this country so beautiful. And I remind my American friends and visitors, the more of India you know, the more you know you don't know, and will never know. It is an endless adventure and experience. So we all have to kind of create our own story within India. Those of us who are lucky enough to call India home for some time, and those of you whose home country this is, to see what do we want this moment to be about. Not selfishly for ourselves, not just for our families, not for our businesses or our places of work, not even just for our nations, but together what this US-India relationship is about. And I've been telling people recently, this is not India plus the United States. It is not addition, an additive relationship. It's the US times India, or India times the US. It's multiplication, a multiplicative relationship that when we come together, it's more powerful than just the two elements, for ourselves and just as importantly for our world. We witnessed that in G20 when we came together as partners to bring 18 other countries and much of the developing and developed world together behind the ideas that principles still matter. That something like democracy and empowerment is worth fighting for. That a rules-based free market system is something that on balance with the conscience of taking care of all people is a better system than something just directed by a state. We're living at this time at a crossroads in world history, where one vision of extremism, of autocracy and authoritarianism is different than a vision of democracy, inclusion, free markets, and growth. And make no mistake, we say this is America, and India is often looked in South Asia kind of as the America of South Asia, right? There's a burden about being big, where sometimes people resent you, and other times they say, go fix big problems. Just go take care of that. Create peace. Make sure that the lanes of the sea are free. Make sure that people abide by rules and intellectual property. Ensure that people are empowered. Take care of crises like pandemics. And that is a burden we welcome. And then increasingly I see India not only accepting, but embracing. We see this recently in the Indian Ocean, where the Indian Navy so heroically is helping ships who are being hijacked, freeing the crews who are not just Indian, but crews of international character, because you believe in the idea of a global commons. What will we do at this moment to define the critical aspects of this age? The growth of technology and elements of artificial intelligence, of telecommunications, agriculture, those things that have changed in our lifetime so radically but are about to change even more. How will we make sure that they are harnessed for the good of people and not for the bad? With technology, we see it harm people, divide people. But we could instead, the US and India together, make sure that it connects us and protects us. When we bring our minds together in higher education, as we're talking about, we have the ability to do research. Like there was a solution that came up in academic research in the United States for all 4 strains of the dengue fever to be able to create a vaccine that would work for all 4 for the first time in human history, but we didn't have the know-how of how to scale that up, how to produce it. And so now it's Indian industry that is about to release in the next coming years, knock on wood, the first dengue fever vaccine to not only eliminate that here for the Indian people, but for Africa, for other parts of the developing world, so that fewer people die and suffer. That's the US times India, India times the US. So we know that this is an exciting and scary moment to live through. But I want to offer you a few thoughts of why 2023 was the best year in US-India history. But how, even with an election year in both countries, we shouldn't pause. We should accelerate. We should collaborate. We should innovate. We should communicate even more to our people and elevate our ambitions to a higher level than ever before. The 𝗙𝗵𝗲 and its members have played a very significant role in that history over the past year. Civil society organizations like your own have upheld the rights of companies to protect their intellectual property, for citizens to form associations and unions. You've upheld Article 17 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You've facilitated industry and government interactions, promoted international trade, and most importantly, my favorite part, you've strengthened the people-to-people ties, because we can talk about these things on paper. It's another thing when we see each other, feel each other, three-dimensionally in rooms like this. We have so much in common between our countries, and we've seen our bilateral trade explode. We're now your #1 trading partner, and we are so proud of that. I'm less proud, that was a good number, that India is just 10th for us. And I want to see you bring India into single digits, so that as we saw last year at our greatest investment conference in the United States, which we bring together every single year, all the countries of the world. And this year is June 23rd, Select USA. The #1 source of delegates from any country in the world for the first time ever last year was right here in India. So we want to see this bridge, which has been maybe one way, become a two-way bridge, creating jobs in the United States, even as we see American investments create jobs here. Looking at the ways we can not just bring Indian students, who last year were more than 20% of all of the students in higher education in the United States. The second biggest country was only 10.8%, so nearly double the next biggest country, also for the first time. 60% more visas than ever before, in now 70% less time. And I know it still takes too long, and we're working on that, but 60% more visas in a single year than the year before. We were making a joke yesterday at a different business meeting. I don't know what takes longer, the procurement of military goods from the United States or a visa from the United States to America. But we're trying to bring that number down even more every single day. And now the $12 billion of trade in 2001 that has become $200 billion in 2023. It was a vice president named Joe Biden who said, one day we need to make this $500 billion. And I asked, are you ready to do that with me? Because I want to see $500 billion of trade between our countries flow, whether that's educational exchanges and tourism, whether it's direct investment, joint ventures, partnerships. And my message to my Indian friends is, I believe for the first time our heads are one and our hearts are one. Truly, we think the same way now, two democracies. Our hearts are filled with genuine amity, with friendship between each other, those people-to-people ties that have strengthened for decades. So if our heads think together and our hearts feel together, the question are, can our feet now move together? Can we align our systems to not just brag about the occasional investments, but to make this the #1 partnership for India and the #1 partnership for the United States in the world? Some of that will happen state to state. We have delegations coming through. We just had the governor of Texas. I was here with the husband of our lieutenant governor of California yesterday. We see it embodied in things like President Modi's unveiling of our new Boeing facility, the largest of Boeing in the world outside the United States in Bengaluru just a week and a half ago, $214 million investment that isn't about a back office or tech support. It's about innovation. It's about IP. It's about maintenance. It's about women pilots that Boeing is committed to training here, because that's what the Prime Minister asked for Boeing to focus on, to create more pilots and to empower more women. It's embodied in our Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo's visit here last year during Holy Week, where she loved it so much that her staff, she's an old dear friend, asked me to remind her that there's 200 plus other countries in the world. Stop only focusing on India. But I'm not going to deliver that message to her because I'm the U.S. ambassador to India, nowhere else, ever. And yes, the UP events were great ones as well. A supporter of IPEF, our framework to develop values for trade and investment and standards on the environment and technology and on labor for our region. And also beyond trade and investment, we're partnering with IACC through our our U.S. Agency on International Development, USAID, to look at climate change, economic growth, women's empowerment. I'm so excited when I see women leaders like you on the stage and out there. But let's look at this room and the stage for a second. What's missing here? We need to push towards greater gender equity. Men need to look at women that they can bring up, sometimes step aside and create this space. It has to be intentional. It can't just be a responsibility of women. Every man in this room I challenge to join us in that collective work that Prime Minister Modi has put forward, that President Biden has put forward, and that I as ambassador always put forward, that if we don't have an equal number of women in the room, we're missing brilliance, we're missing energy. In fact, India's success will ride on the ability for girls to graduate from school, to get into wage labor, and to have family support along the way. That's why, as ambassador, I've made a priority of girls' graduation for some of the work that we're doing here together with our Indian counterparts as well. And the US and India has moved forward in so many ways that we are betting big on IACC, renewing our contract with you through USAID for an additional 5 years of taking these values and bringing them into practice. So, thank you for the work that you have done. I talk about the 4 Ps. You heard me last time talk about peace, prosperity, planet, and people. That encompasses everything. To be safe, to have well-being materially, to make sure that health and climate, that we are protecting the planet from those things, and that we have the richness of the people-to-people ties that makes life worth living. But there's no areas that are off limits. We used to say, the sky's the limit, but now we're beyond that. We're even working in space together. We're in the depths of the oceans together. We have literally no limits to this relationship horizontally or vertically. So where do we go from here? Let me conclude with a few provocations and suggestions. One is, as recently I was in a meeting with our Secretary of State and Minister of External Affairs, 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗄, and he said, you know what, the visit of the Prime Minister wasn't a new peak in US-India relations. I think we all wondered, well, what's he going to say? If that wasn't a peak, what is? And he brilliantly said, as he so often does, it's the new floor. And I agree with that. This isn't a new high point. It is now the base, the foundation from which we will build. There's no going beneath that. The question is how high, how fast, and where do we go? Second, export policy is an area where if we're honest with each other, part of the brilliance of deepening our friendship is our ability to be more frank with one another. Export control and export policies have to change if India is going to achieve her goals, and America will achieve her goals as well in what this relationship and the economic growth that we need. Right now we have a $40 billion trade deficit with with India, and an even greater one with China, and we want to see the foreign direct investment from China shift here. But if you look at the honest numbers, don't take my word for it, all the analysts, the banks, FDI isn't flowing into India at the pace that it should be. Instead, it's going to Southeast Asia, to countries like Vietnam. Certainly on our border, we're friendshoring it to places like Mexico. I would selfishly like to see more of that happen here, but I need your help. From state governments, and UP has done a great job, that sometimes can be the barriers, to national policies that still say, and I would only respectfully disagree with one thing your brilliant speech was, which is a self-reliant India. We do want a self-reliant India, but no country can be self-reliant. We know that, and I want to see supply chains that are critical to America coming here. And the rhetoric that everything has to be made here in India will slow down the pace. If you tax inputs, many of you in manufacturing know that, you're taxing your outputs. You're not taxing us. You're not protecting a market. What you're doing is limiting a market. And we want to bring even greater investment. So absolutely, we want a self-reliant India. I don't need to contradict that. But we also want an India that doesn't look at self-reliance as a fortress, but instead now, with the strength of Indian companies that can compete with anyone in the world, that are investing in the United States and creating jobs for us, that this is not the paradigm of old, of invaders coming in to extract. This is a relationship of equals, that when we break down the walls in both of our countries, whether they're bureaucratic, whether the taxation, whether the regulatory, whether they're part of our federal system, can only release more jobs, more prosperity, more investment, and more strength. We also have to see that opaque corporate tax practices still are a barrier to too many companies that want to be here. And this is a great moment for all of you to recruit American companies. Every CEO is saying, if they're not already here, tell me about India. Get somebody who can explain India. I've got to go visit India. They want to invest. But we have to make sure that there's protections for intellectual property. Courts often decide that there's been violations of intellectual property, but then there's no consequence. This is now increasingly important to Indian companies too, because Indian companies are producing patents at such a roaring rate now compared to the past. The strengthening of this, not just with the good rule of law and the decision, but the consequences, will incentivize more investment, because people know those investments and the deep investments that they make on research and development will be protected for a longer period of time. Intercompatibility is crucial characteristics for economies of scale. Countries that prioritize their own standards over connectivity will find it difficult to make for the world. Remember Japan during the cell phone wars years ago? They bet big on their own standards. India is big enough to have its own market, but if you want to have dominance in the global marketplace, we have to decide these standards together. And it's so exciting to see that happen with 4G, 5G, open RAN, as we call it, networks, as we begin to see, can we define that in a way that's very different than our main competitor in the world, who wants to use telecommunications to spy on its citizens and to also spy on others around the world. If we expedite operations through simple permitting processes, kind of what I hear this about UP all the time, a great example.
I'd like to request Mr. 𝗙𝗪𝗏, Dr. 𝗵𝗲
से जो प्रोग्राम रखा गया है इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा जानना चाहिए। आपका सबसे पहले इंट्रोडक्शन।
मैं हूँ डॉक्टर ललित वसीम, लॉयर हूँ और मैं इमीडिएट पास्ट प्रेसिडेंट इंडो अमेरिकन चैम्बर ऑफ कॉमर्स और इस कॉन्फ्रेंस का, इस फंक्शन का चेयरपर्सन हूँ। तो ये फंक्शन इसीलिए किया गया था कि आजकल के जो इंटरनेशनल हालात हो रहे हैं उसमें इंडिया का और यूएस का क्या रोल हो सकता है, चाहे वो यूक्रेन रशिया का क्राइसिस हो, चाहे ये इजराइल और हमास का हो, उसमें हमारा स्टैंड जो है और यूएस का स्टैंड वो ऑलमोस्ट एक जैसा स्टैंड है। तो उसके लिए क्या विचारधारा होनी चाहिए सरकार की तरफ से और लोगों की तरफ से, तो इसके लिए ये सेशन रखे गए हैं। और उसके साथ में कि इकोनॉमिक कोऑपरेशन जो हमारा ट्रेड है, कॉमर्स है, उसमें कैसे इम्प्रूवमेंट लानी चाहिए। कुछ जो मुश्किलें आती हैं इंडियन बिजनेसमैन को यूएस में बिजनेस करने के लिए और यूएस बिजनेसमैन को इंडिया में करने के लिए, उनका समाधान कैसे हो सकता है। तो इसके लिए स्पेशल एक्सपर्ट्स इंडिया से भी यूएस से भी हमारे कॉन्फ्रेंस में इसमें वो हिस्सा ले रहे हैं। तो ये एक बड़ा इम्पोर्टेंट
सर, जिस मोटिव से ये कॉन्फ्रेंस रखी गई है, क्या लग रहा है इस कॉन्फ्रेंस के बाद या गवर्नमेंट तक, क्योंकि राजनाथ सिंह भी जो हैं वो इसमें आने वाले हैं, क्या लग रहा है गवर्नमेंट तक जो चीज़ आप इस कॉन्फ्रेंस के माध्यम से रखना चाह रहे हैं वो वहाँ तक पहुँच पाएगी और इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे जो रिलेशन है हमारे अदर स्टेट्स के साथ, उनसे रिलेशन जो है वो सुधरेंगे?
नहीं, रिलेशनशिप तो बड़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग है इस वक्त भी, पर ये इसको एक तो मेंटेन करना, इसको रखना और उसके फिर और भी मजबूत करना, इसका पर्पस हमारी कॉन्फ्रेंस का यही होता है। सब कुछ जो है सरकार नहीं कर सकती, कुछ जो है बिजनेसमैन की, इंडस्ट्री की, सबकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होती है, प्रोफेशनल्स की। तो उस वजह से हम करते हैं और हमारी बातें जो हैं सुनी जाती हैं। इसीलिए आज भी यूपी गवर्नमेंट के इतने सीनियर प्रतिनिधि आए हुए थे और दोपहर को डिफेंस मिनिस्टर हैं, खुद आ रहे हैं। तो डिफेंस में हमारी क्या टाइज हो सकती है, मजबूती कैसे लाई जा सकती है, तो उसके ऊपर विचार विमर्श होगा।
इंडिया के लोगों को और जो बाहर अदर स्टेट से लोग यहाँ पर आज इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में आए हैं, उनके लिए क्या मैसेज देना चाहिए?
मैसेज यही है कि ये मत आप सोचिए कि सारे काम सरकार करे, अपने आप भी कुछ करने की कोशिश करिए। और उसके लिए जो है इंडस्ट्री के ऊपर, बिजनेस के ऊपर, दोनों कंट्रीज़ के बहुत रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, क्योंकि हम जो है दुनिया में सबसे ज़्यादा पॉपुलेशन वाली कंट्रीज़ हैं, तो इसलिए हमारे ऊपर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी भी बहुत है दोनों कंट्रीज़ के ऊपर। तो हमको जैसे एक साथ होकर चलना है, मजबूत करना है एक दूसरे को।